Hello everyone. Since Kapok became a thing, I've heard from many tires, good ones of course, that it's kind of magical material that can help your hook stay afloat. Sort of like magic. However, believing without critically thinking is not what this channel is all about. I believe that we should a little bit more think about our materials and how they behave and why we should use them in certain ways. In this video, I want to show you whether Kapok is magical material or just a regular material that we can find anywhere in the store or outside somewhere. But regardless of the result, I would like to tell you and show you why I think Kapok is definitely worth having and why I think this material is really good. Now, let's do some science. But first, please let me ask you to go down below in the comment section and tell me, what do you think? Is Kapok really magical material or just a regular material that we can substitute with anything around? Let's do a test. Kapok versus Antron. Antron is commonly known as a dry fly material. Most people would use it for dry flies. Kapok is relatively new stuff, and most people think it's magically buoyant. So let's test it. So for the test, I want to use a little water here in a container. I use it to float some flies. You can see the mirror on the bottom, so you can see reflection. So I'll just place some Kapok on the surface, and then I'll place some Antron on the surface. And as you can see, they float both pretty well without any issues. Now, if you try to submerge Antron, it will go down and it will sink. There is a bubble. I'll squeeze that bubble out and let it go down now. And as you will see, it sinks to the bottom, meaning that Antron has more weight per cubic centimeter than water per cubic centimeter, means compressed obviously, because it's heavier and it goes down. Now let's do the same with Kapok. So I'll just press it down and it wants to stay on the surface. I press it to the bottom. Now let's try and squeeze out all the air, and it still wants to go up. It's because relative weight of Kapok is lighter than water. I won't bother you with numbers, but relative weight of water compared to Kapok is heavier, meaning that the Kapok is definitely lighter and buoyant material. But is it enough to hold your hook on the surface? Simple test. So I'll just kind of stab it. Okay, stab it so it holds, it doesn't go down. And I'll just place it. It runs to the bottom, obviously. But let me show you something else. First, I will show you that with Antron. So again, I will stab a hook into the clump of Antron. Same hook, place it on the surface. Floats really well, as you can see, at least for some time. Now, I guess that you already can assume that the same experiment done with Kapok will give the same results. I mean, it will float on the surface. So let's go. It rides very high. So you can press it down, it will stay there, but with Antron, obviously, it goes down. There is a bubble, which if I squeeze it out, it goes down. So what we can learn from this, it means that Kapok and Antron are different, but they can be used for more or less same applications. Why? Because if you create enough surface tension, as you can see here, water will kind of repel whatever is on the surface. So if you have enough legs and fibers sticking away and supporting the hook will stay on the top of the water. As soon as the water tension is lost, everything will sink down. Foam has air bubbles inside. If you squeeze those air bubbles out, foam won't support hook as good as it was supporting it before. So it's more important how we use materials than what materials are we going to use. There are always alternatives to materials. So Kapok is definitely not a magically buoyant material. So that's a misconception. It's obviously wrong, and you can use Antron if you don't have Kapok. Kapok. You can use superfine dubbing if you don't have Kapok. You can use so many other things if you don't have Kapok at the moment. But now I will show you why I believe Kapok is really superb material for tying. So now let's talk about tying this fly and why I really do like Kapok as a material. So for the materials, I will use hook size 12 by Hanak. So it's Hanak Competition 130 barbless in size 12. For the thread, I will use Simberfly Nano Silk in 30 denier olive. It matches nicely the color of the body that I'm going to use. For the body, I will use Kapok, and I will use it in this caddis green color. This is for the main body, but for the ribbing, I will use it in this kind of gray color. I will also use some CDC, in this case 3 feathers. That depends purely on the size of the feathers and how many barbs there are on the feather. So if you have some really good quality CDC, 1 or 2 feathers are sufficient for the size, let's say 16, 14 or less. Or for 12, usually 2 feathers or 3 feathers are enough. Now, I'll put the hook in the vise first. Very important step before you start wrapping your thread is to run it through some wax or anything that will create more friction between thread and the hook, because GSP, as you know, is very slippery. I also want to cover the whole hook shank, again, to create more friction between thread and the hook, and then between thread and materials. Now at this moment, or any other moment, it's okay, I want to create a dubbing loop. Dubbing loop I will use to make my ribs, well, not mine, but fly's ribs. So I'll just run down the thread, down the hook shank. Okay, and then I'll just place this thread somewhere so it won't be in my way. I like to invert hook like so, because if it's not inverted when I dub, I can stab my fingers on the hook point. But if I invert the hook, I can come close with dubbing very close to the hook shank without stabbing myself. Now you also want to use small amounts of Kapok because it dubs better. And let me show you. Like, I'll take a little pinch. So these are like 3 turns of my fingers, and you can see that dubbing noodle is like just amazing, very even, very thin. So if I even use less Kapok, I can make thinner noodle. Now what you want to do here, you want to create kind of layers to keep this dubbing on the thread, and by using less material you will also prevent yourself from creating those bumps. So you can create some bumps, as you can see sometimes, and those bumps, if they're not evened up by the end of the process, will create kind of, well, not very even wraps for the body. And when you start ribbing the fly, it can become a little bit more complicated. Let's call it like that. You will see. So after I finish dubbing, you can see that I can create super compact dubbing noodle, and I can shape it up as if it was made out of clay. So I have it thin here and I have it thin near me, so in the middle it's going to be a little bit thicker, and that's on purpose because caddis, they have kind of oval kind of shape of body. So after I layered everything, I just want to wrap it around the hook shank, and just in touching turns, and you can see that there is a segmentation here. Touching turns, no overlapping, and just perfect space for the head over here. Now, same I will do with dubbing loop. I will insert dubbing twister just to have some tension here. And now I will use some dubbing and create a dubbing noodle. Now this time I don't need to create compact dubbing noodle because I will twist it with a dubbing loop. If you have dry hands, I would suggest that you use some hand cream or saliva to create more friction between dubbing and your fingers so that everything dubs more easily. Now I'll twist it into a very compact noodle this time. Okay. I'm running my nails over it. It makes it even more fuzzy. You will see, as you can see here. Now, obviously, I created those segments to run dubbing through them and make this kind of lively body. It goes in between those wraps. Okay. It looks very nice. I'm trying to find this segment over here. Yeah, it's, I think, over here. But yeah, now when I come close to the eye, I want to catch dubbing loop, couple of wraps, and then I'll just take a couple of locking turns over here. Now I will remove those locking turns, wraps, and go with new locking wraps over the dubbing. So that's it. Now it's secured nicely. Let's make it even more. Oops, I soaked it with water somehow. Yeah, I grabbed. Never mind. At least you can see how it looks wet. There's water because of the testing on my table, and this was soaked with water. Well, it happens. Anyway, we need some CDC here. I already aligned 3 CDC feathers, and as you will notice, sometimes caddis will have longer wings in nature, and that's what I will imitate right now, and it will actually improve buoyancy of my fly. So Kapok won't improve buoyancy of your fly for sure, as you saw already, but CDC will, so use it nicely. 1, 2 wraps, and then upward squeeze and squeeze upward so it doesn't rotate around the hook. See if everything is okay, sitting well. 1, 2, and then I'm coming back over here. I want to create another dubbing loop that I will use for legs. Okay, I already used some CDC, so I will use just a couple of those. So it's a half a feather basically. I'll insert it in this clip very near the edge. Okay. So I inserted CDC near the edge of the clip because now I can come close, very close to the hook. Twist it, create legs. Okay. And I want to twist it like basically in the same spot here, but be careful. Hold the wings in place for the first couple of reps. Because you don't want to rotate your wings. Okay, one more, and that's it. And now I will just place everything here. Now twist the bobbin holder around the loop just to make it even more secure. And now I will lock it a couple of wraps. And by creating this, I'm also lifting those buttons here. Okay, cut it by under tension. So I will kind of lock in L position the whole feather. So it will be impossible to remove it afterwards. Basically, you're creating an indestructible fly. Okay. Tighten the knot. Again, pull it under tension and with a blade, touch it. Finished. Now, if you want to pull your fly under the water, cut these buttons, cut them very close. If you want to skate your fly, cut them like elk hair caddis head. So obviously, I would like to skate this fly to make it more buoyant. But even more obviously, I don't want it to be this long. Yeah, it's okay. Sharp scissors mean a lot. Now, let me see. As you can see, I created those legs that are super buggy, that will improve mobility of the fly and create hopefully another trigger point for the trout. So one would be silhouette, size, and then you have movement of those legs that will suggest life. So guys, hope you like this video, hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, keep safe and tight lines.